Hey everybody, what's up, Team Wilpers? This is week four briefing, and we are going to talk about fueling again. I know I posted we were going to talk about recovery, but I need to bury this fueling thing. So fueling and nutrition. So all right, cool. Let's get into this. Welcome. Who did the max ride earlier this week? Wait a minute. Before that, let's actually first. Well, we've had like 500 new people sign up for this Facebook group alone this week in the past few days, and our community seems to be growing, which is really cool. So enrolling in the training plan now. If you're doing that, you got hit with a hard week, the max rides and the sweet spot today. So you are in week 3 of the plan, and that's not how it always is. So just letting you know, this is week 3 of our training block. Okay. If you're not enrolled and you just joined to request the music, that's awesome. But go ahead and enroll and jump in. And we have a nice recovery week coming next week, so should be fine. You know, jump into the recovery week, and it's a good kind of re-entry plan for next week, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. So, all right, cool. So, also just for the records, if you are just joining us, I'm gonna vote for no more gaps. Like we do these 6-week training blocks or 8-week training blocks. I'm gonna vote to fill in those gaps and just have continuous programming. But we'll see what the Team Wilpers says about that. Maybe I'll have an opinion. Okay, all right. Who did the max ride this week? I did. I got on my bike in the basement on the trainer, and I was ready to do it, and I put it on my schedule, and I have most of you know I ride an old road bike on a smart trainer, and it's powered by this, which is attached to my Training Peaks account, and usually it works flawless, but this time there was a little technical difficulty, so I kind of had to manual it, and I did 3, 4, then 5 zone 6 intervals, followed by the zone 2 intervals, and then I looked at it and I realized I missed the 2, so I did it a little bit differently than how it was supposed to do, but anyway, it was still hard, and the reason I bring it up is because the higher the intensity, I spoke with Matt Welsh earlier in the week and posted that talk, and we talked about fueling, and we talked about pre-rides, and I think I mentioned that I get crazy about I need to have something to eat before I work out, and rides like that are exactly why. So I'll bring that up in a minute. So sweet spot intervals today. I did that outside. I rode my gravel bike. Beautiful day, 60 degrees here in Vermont, and nice fall day. So that was awesome. All right. So timing and fueling, even today I had a sweet spot interval. We all had a sweet spot ride or a high zone 3 ride, and I just mentally, I can't get on and know that I have a ride that intense coming up without some fuel on board. And so what does that mean? And we've talked about it. We had a post about it, and there were some awesome answers about what y'all do. And let's just go over this a little bit and talk about fueling. And sorry, my normal piece of paper for notes, the printer didn't work beforehand. And so I'm looking at a computer screen over here that says, all movement needs fuel. Okay, we have an unlimited amount of fat or low intensity fuel, and we all have a unique limit to the rate of ATP production using fat as a primary source of fuel. Okay, does that make sense? So if you're just sitting here chilling, or if you're up and walking, as the intensity gets higher and higher, there is the nice low intensity. You can fuel that movement 100%. Not 100%, mostly by fat. We grab fat from the store, convert it a little bit, throw a bunch of fat and glucose in through the mitochondria, produce ATP aerobically, and is very efficient, and we can walk basically all day, or we can do a slow zone 1 most of the day. Fat can only be utilized aerobically. going through the mitochondria within the muscle, okay? Fat can be the primary fuel source for all of zone 1 and up to maybe the middle of zone 2. There's no need to refuel. Does that make sense? We have an unlimited store of fat. So if you're training or riding, we're cyclists, if you're riding at a lower intensity, you maybe don't have to refuel for hours and hours and hours because you're burning fat as a primary source. You are also, though, burning glucose, sugar. Sugar can provide ATP to working muscles more quickly through the mitochondria aerobically, or as intensity creeps up, it can bypass the mitochondria and supply ATP at a very fast rate. So little chemical reactions and boom, you get some ATP very quickly. Now you're getting up into the high zone 2s and zone 3 aerobically and zone 4 anaerobically without oxygen when you bypass the mitochondria. So there's that cutoff point that we all have, FTP, or the estimated FTP, where you're working anaerobically versus aerobically. All right. Before, even when I was preparing for this, I started to get crazy into the science and started writing. But remembering, this is for fueling and not about the physiology and how we work and how we do a muscle contraction. So, if you're riding intensely long enough, just simply, it's possible, if you're riding long enough and intensely enough, it's possible to deplete your glucose availability, okay? High zone 2 through zone 4 will burn sugar, glucose, and you can start to run out after as early as 1 hour, and you can feel the effects of bonking. Jeff, yeah, you don't have anything but fast twitch. All right. If your ride is going to be intense, try having some sugar on board so that you don't run out. If your ride is going to be going into zone 3 or above and is 90 minutes to 120 minutes, I suggest having some sugar on board and refueling part way through the ride. Anybody bonk ever? Anybody know what that feels like? It's it's not fun. So what does that mean? It's common to start with the thought of 30 grams of carbohydrates per hour ingesting to refuel and replenish. It goes into the bloodstream, goes right to the working muscles, and that's a common place to start. I've heard of pros in pro races, gravel races, Tour de France, as high as 120 grams per hour of carbohydrates. So that could be, remember my untapped maple syrup, what we have? We have carbohydrate grams, 26. That would be 5 of these in an hour. So maybe they're not having all maple syrup. Maybe they're having a product, a glucose product in their water, and that's really the easiest way to have it. Preload is important. We're going to get to that. All right. So starting though, if you're not fueling any workouts and you do intend to do a long ride, such as the 120-minute Matt Wilpers live ride, I'm just saying you could start with 30 grams of carbohydrates per hour and see what that has. If you're out there doing 4 3-hour rides outside, 30 to 40 grams of carbohydrates per hour. If you're an event and you're racing, you definitely want to be consuming carbohydrates during the ride, okay? Whatever the product is. And then also, I think pre-ride, I think you want to start from a level of high blood sugar, high stored glucose in your muscles, which is glycogen. You can do that two days beforehand or so, but don't overdo it. You can get crazy with it. Doesn't have to be crazy. All right. So that's you can even get crazy with if you are getting up into the higher, like 120 grams per hour. You would want to have 2 sources of carbohydrates, which are glucose and fructose, and there are products that are developed with those 2 kinds of sugars. So those are absorbed through different channels, and that's why you can absorb more. And really, it's kind of experimenting and figuring out how much you can absorb versus how much you need to. All right, post-workout, you definitely have burned more than 30 grams per hour, so time to refuel. You could consume more carbohydrate. Most recovery products are a combination of protein and carbohydrates to replenish and rebuild, okay, in a ratio of 1 to 4. 1 gram of protein for every 4 grams of carbohydrates. So carbohydrate is an important factor for us. Then just a couple of electrolytes are not a fuel. Electrolytes they do help the environment for a muscle contraction and can help avoid cramps, but it's hard to run out of electrolytes. If you sweat a lot, that might be the case. You might sweat just water. You might not sweat much electrolytes, and there are tests and everything you can do for that beyond the scope. Okay, electrolytes though are not fuel. They do not count as calories to fuel your rides. Gummy bears. Let's talk about gummy bears, guys. I believe gummy bears are a good sugar source. So actually, I looked it up, and there is an article on the Livestrong website. Livestrong says that a serving of average gummy bears, which is 17 to 18 pieces, contains 21 to 22 grams of sugar. All right, that's getting close to what one of these are. At 4 calories per gram, you're looking at 84 to 88 calories from a serving of gummy bears. 17 to 18 gummy bears you have to eat every hour to get to that 80 calories. We want a little bit more than that. We're looking for 30, so you'd really have to eat about 25 to 30 gummy bears every hour if you're using that as your fuel source. According to Livestrong, the same serving also has 2 to 3 grams of protein in gummy bears, and so therefore, maybe gummy bears are the recovery product. I don't know. It's not quite the 1 to 4 ratio, but maybe it's getting there. Okay. Cool. So also there's no nutrients in gummy bears. There's no electrolytes. There's no nutrition, anything. So yeah, I know, protein in gummies. That's why I said according to Livestrong. It's right there on the internet. Must be true. Okay, so right after I got to this point about an hour ago when I was preparing to give this talk, I had to jump in the car and I had to take my daughter to soccer practice. So while I was doing that, I texted Matt Wilpers. All on voice, right, through CarPlay. Text Matthew Wilpers, hey Matt, what did you have for fuel during your Hincapie ride, your Hincapie Gran Fondo? And here's what he wrote. Hold on, let me get it. Back up, hang on 1 second. Okay. He said he went with chews. So he started with the bonk breaker chews and then switched to the power gel chews, and his stomach hated them. So, oh man. So I believe he had an 82 mile ride, and he said, I would try to eat a pack every 30 to 45 minutes. However, I stopped towards the end because it was doing them more harm than good. So his stomach was not used to the gummies, and that wasn't working for him. So he said he was somewhere around 60 grams of carbs per hour. So like I said, start with 30, maybe 40, and work your way up, but you do have to test, okay? You do have to test this out, not just show up at a Fondo in South Carolina and expect it to work. That's why we try it. So he said not the best, but better than last year. So he's getting there. All right. So he did say he also had the Noon and the electrolytes. And I think, yeah, of course he did. And he said, but the temperature went up and just as protection. So salt tablets along the way for extra reinforcements. And I don't know, does he know that he sweats a lot of electrolytes? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But if you are taking on extra electrolytes, I don't think it's harmful, but maybe you need them and maybe you don't. It's an individual thing. Anyway, okay. So he also suggested that he would stick to the gels and fluid carbs instead, and he would train his gut to handle more carbs in the span of an hour. And otherwise, I asked him, what worked and what didn't. And he said he would have experimented and trained his gut to absorb more carbohydrates in the span of an hour. When the intensity is high or the course gets technical, no one has time to fumble with chews, and let alone try to chew them while breathing hard. And that is true. I have found that in my own races that anything you have to chew doesn't really work. And if you're really working hard, then one of these things that you can just easily swallow is great. Or a lot of products now that go right in your drinking water, and you can get up to 400 calories or more in a water bottle, and that actually goes a long way. So there are products, but you can also go, some people are doing just straight up glucose. You can apparently order glucose powder online and just put it in your water, and that can get you some calories. So I then asked him what did he do pre and post race, and he said pre-race he didn't get his normal oatmeal, but he did have a egg biscuit and some fruit. So, okay, cool. The egg gave him some protein. Again, protein is not a fuel, but biscuit and some fruit. So his blood and his muscles are probably full of carbs, and he's ready to go. Afterwards, also not ideal, he had some barbecue and a beer because that's all that was around. Jeff, go beer. All right. Later that evening, he had lots of Thai food, so lots of carbs. Great, lots of carbs. The problem with the races, he says, is you have to deal with what you get unless you bring your own. Awesome. Well, the New York City Grand Founder that I was supposed to ride with him a couple of years ago, I brought my own recovery drink, and I did have it right here, this Scratch product recovery drink. There are many of them out there. It is that 4-to-1 carbs to protein ratio. One serving has about 200 calories and just a little bit of everything to get you going towards replenishing and rebuilding. So I would suggest to Matt that, yeah, he does a little research beforehand in the weeks leading up to his event. Do some longer rides and test what you're going to consume during the event, and have a good plan for what you're going to eat and how many calories it's going to take. I didn't go full coach on him and ask him what was his normalized power, what was that in relationship to his FTP, how hard were you working. But needless to say, if you are in zone 1 or low zone 2, you could probably get away without eating too much. But the more you are up into zone 3, zone 4, which you are in a race, especially if he's racing with the pros, DX pros, he needed to have some onboard fuel. And it sounds like he did attempt to do that, but without a tried and true plan. So, all right, enough of that. Let's. I just want to talk about all that because the hour and 20 minute ride is coming up with Matt this Saturday. So if you're going to do it out of the blue, expect to have some fuel on board. If you're going to do some of these intense rides and you're normally fasting or a low carb diet, try some carbs on board. Just try it. See how it feels. If it feels better, great. If it doesn't, okay. But I think it will. I think it will. Can we go over the coming week's workouts? We've done 3 progressively harder weeks. This is week 3. We've done week 1, week 2. You notice there was a max ride in there, zone 6. There was a sweet spot today. Next week we're going to pull it back. We're going to chill and pull it all back again and focus on recovery. So Monday you have 6, 8, and 11 minutes in zone 3 intervals. I think the PZE rides, the way they are taught, are a little intense for recovery. You need to put them in the context of a recovery week and keep them chill. If you're following my timers, you'll notice they are 80% and 70%. 80%, 70%. Keep it under control. Okay? All of them, if you're following my timers, are 80%, 70%. 80% for zone 3, 70% for zone 2. Even that might be a little bit high for promoting a recovery environment. Wednesday, you have 6, 5, Wednesday, you have 8, 6, 5, and 4 minute zone 3 intervals. Same thing, 80, 70%. Thursday should be even a little more chill with 19 to 20 minutes in zone 2. I did write it as 75%, but again, maybe I'm, I don't know if I'm getting old or what, but I'm softening, and maybe lower intensity is even better. I do feel like it has to do with the amount of time you spend on the bike. The more time you're able to spend on a bike each week, the more time you can spend in a lower intensity. Let's put it that way. So I feel like we are all kind of time constrained, and we don't have time to ride 2-3 hours every day, and therefore some intervals are in order. So that's why 80% is cool. You know, I don't know if it's a real recovery ride, but anyway, that's where we're at. Saturday, we have 6, 5, 4, 4, 5 minute zone 3 intervals. So all week, just a bunch of zone 3, zone 2. Yeah, it might be boring and repetitive, but 87, man, you get a big bang for your buck at this intensity, and just keep it under control. You will feel good. You will feel fresh at the end of the week. There will be some intensity coming, so nothing to really prove this week. You don't want to break any records. Sunday is 4 minutes at zone 3, 9 minutes at zone 2, and then 4 minutes at zone 3. All week, it's 80%, 70%. Weekly TSS. Weekly TSS, if you do all 5 rides, the core rides in the program, comes out to 189, down from 264 last week. And if you're doing my timers, it's 193, down from 268. So quite a difference. All right. So is recovery week just about riding easier? No, it's about getting good sleep, volume and quality of sleep. It's about managing stress and returning your body to a parasympathetic state over a sympathetic state. Rest and recover. Central nervous system, everything calm down. That's what we're trying to do, so you could be ready to perform again the next week. Eat clean, good nutrition, good hydration, just about taking care of yourself. The best thing you can do is get a little extra sleep. Ways to measure. The best thing, every morning, how do I feel? How do I feel? And do a self-check. Am I taking care of myself? Am I getting good recovery? Even better maybe is, how do others feel about you? I get real cranky when I'm overtrained and under-rested. That's tough. So anyway, as we finish up this week 3, start thinking ahead of how you can get organized to float through next week and get some rest and recovery. And like last week with the nutrition, hey, let's put a post out there. How do you all intend to promote recovery next week? Matt Welsh, go ahead. You did awesome last week. If you want to throw a post up there about what everybody's doing for recovery, that would be awesome. If not, I'll do it. I don't mind. So when you're doing the ride, so hey, don't forget to mark your boxes. If you're new here, get into the portal, the Team Wilpers portal. After you do a ride, check the box, and we're looking for consistency. This is the only thing. It's just a really accountability tool, but check the boxes so that they turn green or they get a check in it. And if you do check all the boxes that you've signed up for, you're eligible for a raffle. So Dan Schmecker, sorry, Dan Schmecker. If I say your name wrong, I'm very sorry, but you got some swag coming for being consistent. And Sonia Walton also are winners this week. So the team is going to send you some gear. You'll get an email from them. Don't be afraid to give your address, and you'll get some cool Team Wilpers gear for being consistent. And a lot of information. I don't know where it all comes from, but a lot to talk about tonight. So thanks for bearing with me, and hopefully y'all are having fun, having a good week, and let me know how it's going. I will see you next time. All right. Thank you.